15 hundo. Call.
Oh, wow. A really weird full house for Jeremy. Jeremy overcalled on the flop and called on the turn.
4,000. Allin.
All you can eat.
And this is a gross spot for Kieran. He doesn't have a ton behind relative to the size of the pot, but
9,040 more.
Welcome back to Close to Broke. My name is Kieran. Today we're doing things a little different. It's going to be a day in the life of a very special episode. We're going to be heading to the Hustler Casino Live. We're going to be playing on the live stream today, so that'll be happening at some point. But for now, enjoy the day in the life. Okay. Now we're off to lunch. Before we get into some poker activities, I've got some actual work responsibilities to go over. What will be about an hour and a half for us will be, what do you say, 2 seconds for them? I feel like a professor right now. I have to quickly do this payroll though. Today is a pretty exciting day for a lot of reasons. Start with the fact that I get to play on stream again. It's been a while. Feels like a little bit of a comeback. I've played on the stream once before, and last time I played I lost, so you know, that wasn't great. Nonetheless, it was a great experience. This time around, I'm going with my friends. Mike and Dave are going to be there. Can't help but feel a little bit of anxiety, excitement for sure, a little bit of the nerves, but not really from my poker play, because you know, wherever the chips fall, they fall, but mostly just getting to be in front of the cameras, because like I said, it's been a little while. It's one thing to just sit in a room and just record myself walking around, but it's a whole other thing for every single movement that you make to be recorded, obviously. So hopefully I'm not picking my nose or whatever. Been like 115 or 20 episodes since I last played on the Hustler stream, so hopefully today is good enough and fun enough for us to continue to be on the Hustler. Got some chips we're gonna get. We have 39 today, so we got quite a lot to blast off. Hopefully it won't come to it, but you never know. Things change pretty quickly. Pretty much gonna go 0 dark 30 mode. We're gonna go straight into the poker now. At around the halfway point, I'll come out and talk again. But until then, that should be it. Excited to meet the people that we're playing with today, and we'll talk more in a bit. At this point, the moment becomes real, and I realize I'm playing on the Hustler Casino live stream. I've brought $40,000 to play, and I'm ready to go to battle and put on a show. Getting acclimated with the moment and the people around me. I feel in my element. Let's do this.
20,000 for several of these players. Down to Sashimi with 7,000.
I heard you're coming, and I'm that good.
Nothing like shaking off the cobwebs and getting straight into the action. This is only like the first or second shuffle of the night, and we've already got a spot to go over. I look down at a6 after some limps to me, and I go ahead and decide to just limp as well.
Bunch of limps here.
And we're going 5 ways or whatever off to a flop.
And Francisco with the nut flush draw, an ace for Kieran.
When the action's checked over to the in-position player, Mr. Israeli Ron, and he bets 100, I think we have a pretty easy spot to go for a raise. I make it 400, looking to target inferior pairs as well as flush draws. And it looks like that works out in our favor when Francisco with the king-high flush draw calls, and Israeli Ron with his pair of queens makes a call as well. We're going off to a turn card, looking to brick out, and unfortunately it comes a 7 of hearts. At this point, I realize that my hand's going to be really tough to get any more value from worse, so Francisco, with the option on him, decides to throw out a massive pot-sized bet of 1,300. Iron folds, and we have an easy fold as well. Alright, might not have won this hand, but at least we were able to get our chops wet. I don't even know if people say that, but I just did. I am not understanding of the fact that Francisco's been limping with some strong hands like this. With the action on me now, we look down at a suited ace-3 diamonds. Really easy spot for us to isolate. I make it big, 300 to go. Both Ron and Francisco call, and the flop comes out jack 4-4. Action checks to me, and I think I missed a spot to c-bet here. But the backdoor flush draw seems like if there's ever a chance to draw some money, this is a good one. Either way, I chicken out and just check. Turn card is a really interesting one as it gives me both Francisco a backdoor flush draw. And at this point, Israeli Ron with 10 high decides to start a bet of 400. Well, that's not going to fly with me. I'm going to raise. 1, to build the pot. 2, to get some hands with equity to fold. I don't want a hand like King Queen to float one off here. And I think that my goal should be to use this kind of as a merge. But as you guys can see here, we get 2 folds. So getting King Queen of diamonds to fold there is kind of a disaster, to be fair.
Not what you want, but never seems too bad to just win a decent-sized pot with ace-high.
Session continues along here, and we look down at pocket 6s from early position. I race to 200, and the flop comes out 8 high. I think I missed a spot here to throw out a bet here. Like, who the hell cares? We got a pair. We should bet it. Anyways, the turn card comes out the 7 of spades, and at this point, Francisco throws out a bet.
Francisco with the small bet, and Kieran calls. Ooh, and a deuce on the river. Francisco is drawing very thin, but it's the deuce from space here.
Once again, we're put in a spot on the river when Francisco bets over the size of the pot here. It's a little interesting as obviously I blocked that straight. Kind of a tricky spot here. I just decide to err on the side of caution. I don't see an 8 or 7 just going for naked value like this, but it feels like a fold is the best. So I go ahead and do just that, and luckily for us, we were right, as we unfortunately let Francisco get there with his pocket deuces. This next hand is probably the most fun hand we play all night. There is so many limps that the graphics can't even keep up with it. I think it's literally a family pot.
With a couple limps. And that's going to lead to an 8-way pot.
With the action starting off with me in the small blind with a flop that comes queen, queen 3, we flop 2 pair technically. I'm going to throw out a small little joke bet for 10% of the pot here. 40 bucks, only Francisco calls, and somehow that tiny, tiny bet ends the field out. At this point, the turn card comes e5 of clubs, ringing a backdoor flush draw, and once again, I decide to throw out a bet of 100. The river card comes a king of spades, and now we've somehow ended up with 3 pair. And beyond that, we've got a pretty freaking good hand. It's kind of disguised. I would think that we'd get raised by a queen at some point in this hand, but all of that thinking is for naught. When I end up getting called from Francisco, I happily show my king, and he has queen 9. Somehow, we value on ourselves. Nice hand you, Francisco.
I thought you have a queen with no kicker.
Some more time has passed, and as you guys can see, the stupid game is on. There's quite a few limps once again as Sashimi decides to take initiative and raise. I'm directly to her left, and we look down at a suited connector. You guys know how much I love these. I go and 3-bet to 600. Unfortunately, the small blind and the big blind both call. We're going at least in position to a flop that's ace high. Definitely a board that's going to favor me.
So I throw out a pretty easy c-bet for 800. J-Bugs makes the call, Ronnie folds, and the turn card comes the queen of spades. Once again, we find ourselves with 10 high and a dream. Granted, we now pick up a gutter ball to the nuts. One thing we do have on this board is range advantage. Sure, J-Bugs can have 8 sometimes here, but cold calling a 3-bet out of position with 5s seems a little bit like a mission suicide type play, so I decide to bet out a massive size here of 3,000, and after quite a bit of thinking, luckily for us, J-Bugs ends up folding. I would later find out that I just got him to fold the worst hand anyways, but feels good to get that hand through.
Okay, so emotional. My heart was beating, but I bluffed on the last hand. You guys saw it, but pretty funny. Anyways, I got to pee really bad, and luckily I won the stand-up game.
Okay, I'm sorry.
You're too close to me. They're touching me.
Sorry.
Sashimi decides to isolate from the cutoff, and I'm just to her left with the beautiful 7-6 of clubs, and I decide to make the call here from the button. This is going to invite a ton of people to come along. J-Bugs from the big blind, Francisco from under the gun. We're going 4 ways off to a flop here that I don't think I could have hit this flop any harder. We flop an open-ender as well as a flush draw. At this point, Francisco leads out for 400. I actually like his lead quite a bit. With middle pair, with a good kicker, he can actually get called by worse a ton. And these 2 hands exactly are why that is not that, pretty good spot. We both call. We're going off to a turn card that changes everything. The dynamics are different now. We make a straight and a flush. At this point, the action checks over to me. And I decide to throw out a bet of 1,500 into 2K, about 3/4 the size of the pot. After a bit of thinking, Jeremy decides to make the call, and Francisco makes a good fold. We're going off to a river card that hopefully doesn't change much. And at first sight, the 4 of hearts just doesn't change a whole lot.
Oh, wow.
With the action check to me here, I am now in a bit of a predicament. Can I still bet for value and get called by worse? And if so, how big should I go? I think that a single pair hand is probably not going to love calling the river for any sizing. So I'm looking to target a hand specifically like a straight, although granted I blocked that because I do have the straight, but I think I can also get called by a sticky hand like maybe ace-4 with the ace of clubs or something like that. But for the most part, I'm just looking to maybe get a really good king to call or just a non-believing hand. Here, I just decide to go for a bigger sizing, going 4,000 into 5K, leaving myself and Jeremy about 9,000 behind, and then he thinks about it for some time. And my heartbeat is racing. I'm excited about winning this massive pot, everything finally going my way. And then I hear the dreadful. Oh, well, yeah, the Mirage is going to have to be put on hold for a while. This is not what I was expecting at all. And this is kind of the problem with betting this river, I guess. What the heck is going to be calling me that's worse? And when we get shoved on, how can we call this? My head is completely tumbling. I don't know what to do. And I'm just kind of like...
Is a 7-high flush ever good here?
What do I even do? How do I do it? What did I do to get in a spot like this today? In real time, I can only think that maybe J-Bugs is getting carried away. Maybe he's frustrated with how things have went for him in this session. Granted, both him and I haven't just had a whole lot panning in our direction. So I come to the realization that I think that my opponent either has a hand like pocket 5s or pocket 8s. He never has kings. And sometimes he has a hand like king 4 suited maybe. Or maybe 5-4 suited. But it feels like it's a boat or nothing. And to be fair, I just can't think of a real bluff. And when that's the case, you've just got to fold it, right? And after quite a bit of helping from Ronnie with his singing,
It works out well. Last time he was singing, he didn't tell him to stop when he had a good hand, he said. Oh, he did tell him to stop when he had a good hand. And he's not saying anything this time.
I don't know how,
really good hand. Sorry,
how far
guys.
you want to go with this line of logic.
and knowing when to fold them, seems like this time I'm going to err on the side of caution and just decide to fold. Luckily for us, and shout out to J-Bugs, we were able to make the right fold.
This is such an annoying situation for Kieran to be in. I feel for him here. Nice fold. Very nice fold. Well done.
You got pride.
All right, so I just made a ridiculous fold. I don't know what I was supposed to do, but sometimes when you can't explain it, you just can't explain it. My gut immediately thought snap fold, and I started thinking. And you know what they say? Think long, think wrong. So, anyways, got to get back to the action. Just gave a little update there. That was really frustrating, but happy we made the right fold. It seems like they've told me it's the right fold already. Jay Bugs was kind enough to tell me that I made a good fold. So we'll take it, baby. Time to get back to the action.
Okay, we have not done a good job of winning any pots so far, so let's continue on this journey. Israeli Ron from early position raises to 240, and I go in 3-bet to 800 with ace-jack suited. He makes a call, and the flop comes out 6 high. I don't love it, but we have a backdoor flush draw, so let's start a small c-bet, in which he decides to call. The turn card is a good one and a bad one, as some straight draws get there, which Iron can definitely have, but we do improve by picking up that flush draw. I make it 1200, and once again, Ron makes a call. Looking to improve, and the river card comes e6 of diamonds. Not a great card here, as now, if Ron decides to lead out with a bluff or value, it's tough to make the call, as he's definitely going to have a 6 here more often than I ever will, and beyond that, I block a bunch of the hands that we kind of want him to double float with. All that being said, when he checks it over to me, we're just happy to take our showdown value. I don't ever think I can get a freaking pair to fold here, so I just check it back. And luckily for us, we win somehow against Queen 4.
Checks it, and Kieran's going to get some money back here.
Some time has passed here in this next hand when we look down at ace-jack. I go and raise it up to 200. Dentist Dave and Ronnie make the call. Action's over here on Nick, and from the cutoff, for the first time today, he throws out a little bit of a meaty 3-bets. A little scary for sure, but man, he's the owner of the show. If we're going to give action to anyone, it seems like Nick's a good idea. So I go ahead and make the call here. A little loose, mind you, as I'm under the gun. I'm getting 3-bet by somebody after some calls. But hey, one in Rome. Dave makes a call, and then Ronnie folds. We're going off to a flop here that looks like it's pretty good for Nick, as it comes out king high. Granted, we do have a gutter ball to the nuts, and we also have the ace of clubs to do a little funny stuff if it comes down to it. Anyways, luckily for us, the action ends up checking through, and we get to realize some equity, by which a 5 of diamonds comes, so nothing really changes. At this point, we have a fun situation where we can actually turn our hand into a bluff. With the ace of clubs here, it feels like if there was ever going to be a time for me to throw out a little bit of some donkey chips, this is the spot to do it. I bet 1,800 into about 4K-ish, and luckily for us, both opponents fold. Finally, things are working out for us, and we take in that $6,000 pot. To be completely honest, the train has completely come off the rails by this point, as I've got the $160 straddle out there. J-Bugs raises it up to 400, and there's quite a bit of calls when the action gets to me in that $160 straddle. We look down at King-Jack, easy spot for us to defend. The flop comes out 10 high with 2 8s to follow. And luckily for us, the action checks through and we pick up top pair. Comes a jack, brings in some straights, so we got to be a little bit cautious. And even more so when the pro throws out a very pro-sized bet here of 900. Going half pot. This guy definitely got something to his game. We have an easy spot to call here, and a little bit worrisome when Jeremy behind me, the initial raiser, overcalls. Alarm bells are ringing. And even more so when the river completes some straights and brings an overcard, the ace of hearts. At this point, Francisco the Pro decides to check. With the action on me, this is a super easy spot for us to just take our showdown equity. I don't ever see me getting a better hand to fold. I don't ever see a worse hand calling. So I check it over to Jay Bugs, who decides to pretty quickly check back. He shows his hand for top 2 pair, and somehow he's beat by Francisco with trip 8s. It seems like I'm the only fish in this game, as these two sharks are just out here chomping me up. In this following pot, once again, the $160 straddle has become a staple in this game. We're getting absolute degenerate mode engaged. Sashimi from early position raises. I go ahead and call here with pocket 8s. Ronnie decides to call as well, and the action on Israeli Ron, and he decides to throw out a really small 3-bet for 1,500. Okay, that sets off a slew of calls. When Sashimi, myself, and Ronnie all make the call, we're going way too many ways, once again, to a flop looking to dodge quite a bit or freaking hit a set if I have to. And that's not the case with the flop coming, everything but a set. King 9-7, everything around, but not what we need. Luckily for us, the action checks through and the turn card comes the Jack of Diamonds. Yet another straight card, yet another over card. And once again, the action checks through. The river card comes the Jack of Spades here. And oddly enough, I kind of have a weird feeling like I might have the best hand or can get a hand slightly better than mine to fold, like pocket 10 specifically. I think about it for a bit and I just think that, hey, let me just take my hand to showdown. I don't want to get cute here. Hopefully I can win it. I check it, and once again, the action gets checked through. Sashimi opens her hand for pocket 6s, and somehow, my pocket 8s hold, and that ends up being the largest net pot we've taken all night. Once again, I'm in the $160 straddle when J-Bugs in early position limps. Mike's ex decides to come along as well, and I'm in my option here, and I just go ahead and check my ace. The flop comes out 8-7-6 here with 2 hearts. We flop a fake flush draw and an overcard here. The action ends up checking through to a turn card that comes E5 of hearts, giving me that fake flush, technically just a flush draw. At this point, J-Bugs makes the bottom side of the straight. At this point, I decide to throw out some bets here. I bet 500 and J-Bugs call. The river card comes a 5 of spades. Doesn't change a whole lot to the actual hands that we're looking at here. But I realize that if I'm going to get this pot, I'm going to have to bluff for it. We're doing a lot of limping. And 2, I got the ace of hearts, man. We have like the nut blocker or whatever they call it. So I decide if there's ever a chance for me to throw a little over bet and look like one of these Euro superstars, I throw out a $2,000 bet into about 1,600. And after a bit of thinking, J-Bugs ends up making the fold. Finally, another hand coming our way. And with that, we end up with the biggest pot of the night. I think of literally the entire night. And once again, where a lot of limping gets a lot of people in trouble. And I look down at Ace King. I go and isolate this to $500. The pro and Sashimi make the call. And we flop top pair on a really wet board texture, straight draws and flushes for that matter, to be had. I decide that if there was ever a time to size up here, this would be the time. Looking to charge all flush draws, get value from worse pairs. I make it 1,200, and the pro decides to make the call, playing his flopped bottom 2 pair a little sneakily here. At this point, the action is on Sashimi, and she is literally licking her chops. Can't believe this opportunity where she's got 2 people blasting off, and she's flopped a second nuts. She decides to throw out a bet here, a raise in fact to 5,000. And as you folks can see, I cannot get my hand into the muck fast enough. There is just no chance that I'm ever up against a bluff here. And even bluffs have a ton of equity against me, so I just get rid of it. Let's buckle up here, as this is honestly a cooler and a really fun hand to follow. The turn card comes the Jack of Spades. At this point, Sashimi decides to throw out a big bet here of $8,000. And the next thing that follows is a little interesting. Francisco snap jams $26,000. Sashimi obviously snap calls that, and at this point, Francisco realizes that 3 clubs fell on the flop. He didn't realize it until this happened. Too little, too late. We get a funny close-up of my face here where I realize I was a little bit fortuitous there, as we were able to get away relatively unscathed. For maximum blood, Francisco asked to run this river out 1 time, and the river comes a 9 of spades. So just like that, a $65,000 pot to start off with a couple of limps is heading in Sashimi's direction.
And Sashimi wins a $65,000 pot. What a spin up for Sashimi.
To end the night off here with a bang, we have a fun spot where Israeli Ron decides to raise to 500. I'm in the button. I just 3-bet to 2K with pocket 8s. He has just slightly more than that. Goes all in. We decide to run it out twice. The first board comes out 8 high, giving me at least half the pot here. Looking for the scoop, but in reality, Iron is a hero of mine in the high stakes world, so honestly a chop would be fine too. It doesn't look that way, as things fall fairly grim fairly quickly when the flop comes out king high, leaving very few outs for my opponent to have. I'm going to win this 3/4 of the time. Ron gets up, looks to pick up his backpack, and then out of nowhere, the ace of diamonds comes. Ladies and gentlemen, there's still hope for Ron here. The river card comes out a brick, and just like that, we end up chopping this pot. That's also going to conclude today's session here at the Hustler Casino Live. Very fun one, and a whole lot more to talk over here at dinner. So let's get over to that now.
So much to talk about. The session kind of went as it went. Felt like I just couldn't get anything going. The one thing I will say is I'm really proud that I was able to get away from some of the hands and spots you guys saw. That one spot with 7-6 of clubs, my initial gut reaction was to snap fold. Think long, think wrong. We talked about it on the break. I'm really happy that I relaxed and didn't get emotional. Was like, you know what, it's just a shitty spot, let's fold. So folded. Jeremy J Bugs is definitely capable of doing some crazy stuff. It just felt like a weird spot. So happy with that. To be quite honest, we were pretty card dead. Our card distribution was not there tonight, and when that's the case, I mean, hey, to be in the game for what we were in and only have a $3,500 loss and have a couple of massive coolers, I mean, geez, how can you complain? So this is still a day in the life. We're having dinner, I didn't mention, with Dave, a couple of friends, as well as Mike, and this Mike as well. Let's go to dinner. Let me get my emotions under control, and then I'll talk to you guys a little more about why the hell the title is what it is. I am having a lot of trouble putting this like a bow on all of this. I think I was into the game for 25,000 and I was out for like 22-ish. 3K loss wasn't the best thing in the world, but I mean, as you guys saw there, we were put into some really tough spots, and luckily for us, we were able to get away from pretty much every spot on the river correctly. Why is the title titled as it is? What do you mean by end of the era? And bear with me, this is gonna be long. So we've been doing this for like 200 plus episodes. In reality, I have more than 200 episodes with the tournament stuff and the bankroll challenge stuff that never got finished. There's honestly so much happening in Close to Broke, and it's obviously meant like more to me than you guys know. Before this channel was a thing, I played poker on and off as a side hobby or a side hustle maybe, and it's always gone fairly decent for me. Whether I just put the effort away from the tables, which granted, not a lot of us do, and I'm definitely falling victim to that. I just had fun. I think I had good luck with bringing good energy to the table, and just things always seemed to pan out eventually for me. I was just your regular 2-5, 5-10 player. Had a job, had a career, have businesses, and I just kind of enjoyed playing poker, obviously trying to win on the side. This has been quite the journey. During COVID, it just hit me one day where I was like, I just want to make content. And I've made content in the gaming world and other, genres, but poker was the first one where my passion and my hobby mixed with successive growth. And as any other content creator that exists in the world, the one thing that really drives you is your community. I sat there and almost in awe as the scale of things growing and the sub count growing, the viewer count being more successful, all this happening, and it didn't come without its trials and tribulations. There's several times during this journey where I burnt myself out or I decided to take a break. The one most notably was where I just took like a 6-month break or like a 4-month break where I just didn't want to play poker like at all, just busy with life and career, and my priorities obviously have never really aligned with poker. One day I met a really, really important subscriber. Shout out to him, by the way, Richard, if you're watching. And he just kind of pushed me to come out and to restart this whole thing, make the vlog. And long story short, I wouldn't be here without the community that I have. Being on these live streams and having the opportunity. And obviously, I get paid from YouTube, so that's a huge thing. And aside from that, which is, it's not a lucrative amount of money, but this is like a whole little side hustle I got going on. And I wouldn't have a chance to play in these games. I wouldn't have a chance to have the platform that I have, and I try to do my best to do good, and I do as much philanthropic work as I can that is within reason. As I continue to grow and I continue to look for ways to expand past my current reach, there's a couple things. I'm looking to better my craft, but what do I mean by the end of the era? So Close to Broke is a moniker that has come up and kind of been like a life saying for me, and I'm sure a lot of you guys as well. Like, we just take shots when there's shots to be taken. And hey, sometimes it doesn't work out and pan out, and sometimes it does, but that's why it's a thing. That's why we're close to broke, right? That will never end technically, you know, like close to broke will always have a home on this channel and with all of you. But for the time being, I want to make this community a little more marketable and brandable. As I look to continue to find ways to give back and to do things, I just think it's probably best for me moving forward to start going by my name. I don't know how many brands want to tie themselves with people that are claiming themselves to be broke. Shout out to JRB, I guess, you know. This isn't an end of the close to broke thing. We'll still do merch drops, and we haven't done one in like a year or two, so I'll definitely put this all in a beautiful package as a last hurrah to put something fun together, and I'll continue to find ways to be giving, because that's outside of all this bullshit, to be honest with you, and all this clout and all this shit that comes with being a content creator, which is obviously good and beneficial for me. The most important thing and the thing that brings me the most happiness is just learning about you guys and growing with you guys and doing stuff with y'all. It sounds super stupid and cheesy, but I don't know what can drive that point home more than seeing the WSP giveaway I do every single year. Stuff like that is really expensive, and I pay for all of it. Not that I'm looking for a pat in the back, obviously, but I'm just trying to drive in a point. I do that because I love it. I just really enjoy hanging out with you guys. I like hearing the stories. When I go back to this computer and I look at the over 500 entrants and every single one of you guys pouring your heart out, I just see a lot of myself as a younger, you know, maybe not so much as a poker player, but as a young businessman and a young entrepreneur and a young person just trying to figure it out in this world. Like, I just didn't know what was going on. I want to keep finding ways to give back. I'm going to keep finding ways to utilize my platform and my reach to help others. A couple things I want to do when I'm on these streams is obviously give away percentages to viewers, specifically members of the channel, keeping the poker dream alive, because as much as people like to shit on it being dead, it's still awesome. I think right now more than ever, the poker dream of being a winning recreational player is the best dream in poker. I think it'd just be easier for me to continue going on by my own name, whether that's Kieran Poker or Kieran Reyna, which is my name. You guys can obviously still call me close to broke. I don't take offense to it. You can even missay my name and I'll live with it, because my name is pretty hard to say. 200 episodes in, I am super grateful and super happy to see where this journey takes us. I love you all so much, like words can't even describe. This is going to be an absolute pain for Mike to edit. This video, a very special one, will now be coming to, I guess, a close. If you guys have any questions about anything really, just let me know in the comment section down below. I respond to almost every single comment. If you guys ever want to play with me, you guys can play with me on Sundays at the Lucky Lady at 1 p.m. Every Sunday. We play 2, 3, and 2, 5. If you can't make it there, you guys can always play with me on the Splash Squads. I'll be streaming all of those sessions on Sundays. I play every day though. I appreciate you guys making it to this part of the video. And yeah, I don't know, just feel super happy and really excited to see where this takes us. I can't even think of what else to say. I've talked long enough. I'll see you guys in the next episode.
I can do this with my eyes closed. I can do this with my eyes closed.